Hi, all, and welcome back to the Football Manager scouting excursion here on Dirty South Soccer, where we're going to be looking at some Dutch players today, which I know has been a highly requested demographic for you guys. And considering Atlanta United's coaching staff now is all Dutch, very influential Dutch coaching staff as well, of course, with Frank de Boer, it makes total sense to look at some of these players. So let's get to it. We're going to move on a little bit quicker this time. Feel free to just pause the video if you want to take a closer look at some of their attributes or whatever. But the first guy we're going to look at, his name is Karel Iighting. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, but looks like a very solid central midfielder. Young, obviously. And by the way, like this says he's 20 years old. He's actually 21. This is, this game is, they're almost about to come out with the new Football Manager game. So these are going to basically be from when the year started, when the year that just ended in Europe started. So, yeah, he's actually 21. It looks like this year for Ajax, he did make some first-team appearances. He played 405 minutes for the first team. Those came in 7 appearances. So it looks like he's starting to break into Ajax, which could make things more difficult. And it's always going to be difficult trying to attract young players from Europe. I think when you're looking at European players, you're looking at kind of older players, to be honest, that maybe don't have as much potential but have kind of been around the block a bit. Kind of like we saw with Joseph Martinez. Carlos Carmona was another one. Those types of players, I think are going to be more likely to come from Europe. But also, hey, Atlanta United got a guy like Dion Pereira, who was a highly rated youngster in Watford's academy. So you never know. Let's look at his history. He's come up through the Ajax system, so he probably has a very good relationship. I mean, maybe not very good relationship with Frank de Boer, but I'm sure they know each other. As you can see, their years kind of overlap here. When Iighting first started with Ajax as a professional. And, the good thing about this one is that he doesn't have a transfer yet in his career. So it's going to naturally keep his transfer value depressed a little bit. Obviously the main thing that influences a transfer is just the potential of the player, how much of an asset the club sees a guy like Iighting as being. But it always helps when he hasn't been sold for money yet. So it's not like a club is trying to recuperate some money. We'll come across some of these players in this video that have that problem. So just something to keep an eye out, but pretty good-looking central midfielder here. Plays short, simple passes. Could be like a Nagby-ish type player. That's kind of the way I'm reading this, his attributes, but pretty nice player here, and Karel Iighting. All right, the next player we're going to look at here is Jeremy Helmer. Much easier name to pronounce, although I'm sure I'm still pronouncing it wrong because these people are Dutch, and it's very hard to pronounce their names. Again, another 21-year-old. He's not 20 anymore. He's 21. His contract is a little bit up there, but good-looking player. He looks like to me, this guy looks like a left winger, like a pressing left winger. You can see his teamwork, vision, and work rate are all pretty high. His technique is good. His tackling is actually one of his highest attributes. So kind of an interesting profile of player here. Let's see who wants him in the game. Milan and Porto. So two pretty big teams. But again, I like to kind of look at that stuff. Just kind of shows you the way that the game kind of projects him. He's a very high potential player. We're still kind of going through these high potential players. Iighting was another high potential. This guy's got very high potential. And again, a good thing about this guy is if you look at his career, he's come up through AZ and has not had a transfer in his career. So another good candidate for a possible move. Again, it's always going to be very difficult for a team like Atlanta United to convince a young, promising player that's already in Europe and already in, a league like the Eredivisie that is a league that is kind of synonymous with development, especially with these attacking players, and trying to get them to come back across the Atlantic and play in a league like MLS. But hey, again, you never know. So pretty good attacking midfielder here. I think it's a role that Atlanta United could be looking for, especially a guy who can play on the left side, cutting in. He's right-footed, of course. So here's another guy, Jeremy Helmer. All right, the third player we're going to look at here, and the highest-rated potential player that we're going to look at today, is this guy, Myron Bodu. He is another AZ prospect, only 18 years old. So this guy's much younger, and as you can see, his attributes are not that much worse than some of the other guys that are, 3 years his elder. So definitely a lot of potential on this guy. Very good-looking prospect here. Looks to me like he's a striker. As you can see his positions right here, he's a striker, and then also kind of like he could be a attacking midfielder on the left that cuts in onto his right foot. As you can see, his preferred foot is on the right. Good technique, good long shots. That kind of tells me he likes to do that kind of thing. But obviously this guy's physical traits are the ones that stand out the most. Interestingly enough, though, so this guy in real life, again, all these ratings and all this stuff has happened from before this European season. Well, what actually happened this season in real life is that he was hurt, basically from September to April. He had a really bad foot and ankle injury, so he didn't really get to play as much. But when he was playing, he was definitely playing with the first team at AZ. Played 391 minutes with the first team this year compared to 62 minutes in one appearance with the second team, which to me says that that was some sort of, like a rehab start that we've seen some guys do with Atlanta United too. So this guy looks very, very promising. I mean, 7 goals and 9 appearances in 2016-17. So that would have been when he was like 15 years old or 16 years old, like super young. This guy's really been producing, obviously, at that level. But again, good to see that he doesn't have any sort of transfer in his background. So, we've already talked about that, why that's important. Now, the bad news is when we go click on who wants him. Oh, look, it's Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Tottenham, Paris. Okay, so obviously this is not real life, but it just shows you the kind of quality that this guy has and could have, and the teams that are probably keeping tabs on his progress. So maybe it helps Atlanta United in the fact that he had the injuries. Maybe it could depress his value a bit. But again, this is a shooting star, but a very good-looking player right here, Myron Bodu. All right, a little bit something different that we're going to look at for these last 2 players are players that don't have as high a potential coded into them in Football Manager, but they are players that are a little bit older, a little bit, they've already fulfilled a lot of their potential, and most importantly, they both come from FC Utrecht. And why is that important? Well, Atlanta United did sign an analyst this season from Utrecht, and it doesn't mean, this guy, I'm sure he's got profiles of players from all over the world, but he would probably know his own team the best that he came from and have relationships established there. So we might as well look at some of their players. This guy, Sander van de Streek, pretty good-looking player here, especially kind of fits a lot of what Atlanta United needs. They have him listed as an attacking midfielder, but to me, this graph, this radar he has, if you look at his attributes, he's a striker. He's got good finishing, good first touch, the work rate, the composure. These are all things you want to see out of a striker. So really interesting looking prospect here, and it looks like Utrecht, at least in this game, aren't holding on to him tightly. They actually have him transfer listed for $2.6 million. I don't know, obviously don't take the money into account to this at all. It's not real life, but just an interesting player. Has not really been ever sold for much money in his career. Has produced in Holland, had 22 goals and 33 appearances in the second division. Or is this the second division? I don't know what league this is. Canberra. I think that's the second division below the Eredivisie. Had 10 goals and 34 appearances for Utrecht last year. And then I can tell you this year he had 9 goals in 36 appearances, 29 starts. So I guess probably not what you would want from a striker. I don't know if he's actually been playing as a striker or as like an attacking midfielder. I keep on going back. Or as an attacking midfielder. As you can see, that's like his preferred position is as an attacking midfielder. And it says he moves into channels, places shots, and tries first-time shots. So what to me that says is that he's an attacking midfielder that really likes to get forward and get into the box, get into those shooting areas and break the lines, which is, of course, something that Frank de Boer has pointed at as a need for Atlanta United. So interesting-looking guy here, Sander van de Streek. All right, the last guy we're going to just touch on briefly is a guy named Lucas Gortler. Has not been a player that has been very productive in his career. He's been around the block. As you can see, he's 24, but he's already moved around to several different teams. Started off with Eintracht Bamberg in Germany, and then moved on to actually Bayern Munich and played for Bayern Munich too. But they moved on from him. He then went to Kaiserslautern and then finally to Utrecht. So this is a player that was actually brought into Utrecht while the Atlanta United staffer, the now Atlanta United staffer, was there. So possibly a player that he could have scouted before and knows to a decent extent. Again, it's a tough one because he hasn't really produced. As you can see, the goals here have not really come except in the the second divisions and things like that. And for a striker, you'd like to see maybe a little higher rate than some of these. For Kaiserslautern in Bundesliga 2, did not score a league goal in 23 appearances. So not great. In real life this last year, he played for Utrecht. He only played 473 minutes for the first team and did not score. So hasn't been a productive player. I keep on going back. Has not been a productive player, but has decent attributes. And if you're looking to take a punt, listen, we're in MLS, and you have to be prospective on guys that you can get for very little money, and hopefully they can give you some sort of production. So if Atlanta United were to go in for this guy, I don't think he's a big time game changer, but as you can see, he's got high work rate, high aggression. He can put in a shift for you, it looks like, and at least give you the effort that you need. I don't know about the goals, but hey, who knows? Lucas Gortler. That's going to wrap it up for this video. Again, we have more of these coming along down the pike, so feel free to let us know if there's any kind of countries or regions or positions you want us to look out for, and we will do that. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the Dirty South Soccer YouTube channel. It would really help us out a bunch. And like this video if you want to keep seeing more of these. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys next time.